How's it going, Mutant Gem Clusters? I have a new episode of Steven Universe, and this time we're going to be talking about episodes. This is going to be my top 10 favorites of Steven Universe thus far, because frankly, next week could be the best episode ever, who knows. But I've compiled a review, and I decided to show us what we got here. Now, I'm going to, let's see, take a look here. Alright. Yeah, I've gone through a bunch of the episodes, and to be honest, there aren't many that I find boring or, actually, man, even the worst episodes, I can watch and over and enjoy parts of those episodes. So there's actually not an episode I dislike. So I really had to focus on the episodes that I really emotionally were invested in and loved and watched over and over again. So, without saying any further, here's my top 10 favorite episodes of Steven Universe. And number 10, I had to put them down here because I can't remember anything. Number 10 is Sworn to the Sword. And that was the first episode of, I think, the second Steven Bomb. And this episode has basically everything I love about Steven Universe in one 11-minute episode. It has Connie and Steven. It has 2 songs. It's very funny. It's action-packed, and the Pearl Rose stuff, which really, frankly, always gets me. And it's interesting that I think that this episode kind of touches on a lot of the same stuff we already know from Rose's Scabbard, but I feel like it goes at it from a different angle enough to justify an episode. Because Pearl starts training Connie to sword fight, and that alone is fantastic. And that musical montage where we get to see how whoever knows how long that training went on to get her to be such a superior sword fighter. I mean, she's like a 12-year-old, but now she's kind of like anime badass. So that's just what Pearl can do. And that song is fantastic. Dee Dee Magna Hall is just, God, just kills it every time, they give her a song. And then they go at it the angle that, and actually you can see it if you pay attention within the song, that Pearl starts to project that, project her relationship with Rose onto Connie and Steven, which it's interesting that Pearl and Connie have so much in common. I really hadn't thought of it until this episode. Yeah, some people got frustrated with Pearl for putting this kind of mindset onto Connie, but frankly, Connie ate it all up because let's face it, she is someone who is brought up in a really strict household. She has no friends. She has her fantasy life that she escapes to, she reads every apparently fantasy novel in existence, and just relishes it. And then she meets a boy who literally his life is a fantasy novel. I mean, it's better than any vampire that you could ever meet. So yeah, she just goes head on into this. Which is interesting to see how much in common those characters have. And I love the fact that Pearl is able to connect it at the end and make that adjustment. I love the fact that they continue on with her training, too, and make this adjustment of training Steven and Connie to work as a team, possibly setting up Stefani, which is, really nicely done. Because a lot of shows would just go, oh, well, maybe you shouldn't sword fight anymore, and they wouldn't, and that would be it. But no, this show actually really does develop. It's wonderful. I could talk about this episode for hours. We need to talk. And this is another flashback episode, and after 2 episodes, I love the flashback episodes, and I hope they keep them up every so often. The second one almost gives me the feeling that we're almost watching episodes from a previous series. Like there was a Greg Universe show in the 90s, and we're just seeing those. And it's just absolutely wonderful. We get to see a little bit more of Rose and her attitudes towards Greg and people. We get to see the sort of love triangle that was going on between Rose, Greg, and Pearl. I love the antagonistic, bitchy Pearl in this episode, which rightfully so. I mean, I don't know how the relationship was between them. So she obviously feels threatened, so she behaves in this way. It's one of the more touching things about it is that, yeah, this was a love triangle between them, and they end up both losing Rose and wind up raising her son together. So I'm always knocked out when I think about that, and when you juxtapose their relationship in this episode versus the relationship in the show now, it's nice to see the layers of development in these characters and the way they're able to do this. Also, I love the idea of him trying to fuse with her, and of course the fusion is well known among fans to be sort of a metaphor for sexual relationships and love. And he tries to do it with her. Of course, he's fully human, so he can't. But they fuse in the human way, which is actually creates just as strong, if not maybe a stronger bond. That scene where he creates the dance floor for them and the music swells up is literally one of the most romantic things I've seen, and easily the most romantic thing I've seen in an animated series. I really get choked up with that moment. Okay, number 8 is On the Run. And this is a seriously badass episode, which starts out, as usual, deceptively cute, with that very funny sequence of Stephen and Amethyst going off to be hobo boys or something like that. With that cute, funny song, and the raccoons, all funny, I love it. And then we take a sharp left turn into her origins in the dark, creepy kindergarten. The fight between her and Pearl is extremely strong and very emotionally intense, because we're used to seeing heroes fight all the time, but this one had a lot of backstory to it that really felt very powerful. And the scene where she says she never has to be made is just really, really tight. And I love that moment, the way they were able to resolve it with Pearl and Amethyst talking, because it really does feel like a mother and a daughter, a troubled daughter, kind of working it out. And it's just tough. It's just tough to watch at certain points, and it's such a rewatchable episode because, like all the others, it just has such a rewatchable quality to it. I love this one a lot. Number 7 is Rose's Scabbard, and man, talk about a tight episode. Talk about a strong one to watch. This is the one that really kind of let it out of the bag that Pearl did have more than just a casual relationship like the others. Because that was one of the things that some fans would talk about, like, man, Pearl really gets choked up when she talks about Rose, even in the most casual way. But you could easily pass it off like, well, she's the more emotional one, she's the more dramatic one, they all care about her, blah, blah, blah. But no, this is the one that really did set it out that, no, there was something a little deeper and a little more troubling for Pearl. And you get the feeling that she invested a lot of her self-worth in her relationship with Rose. And when they discover that Stephen knew already the sword was already in Lion, and he already knew about her weapons armory, there were secrets she was keeping, from her. Like Lion, for instance, she didn't know anything about that. So she suddenly felt like maybe she wasn't as important as she thought she was, and it really was not something she can handle. I love that scene where she reveals to Stephen how important it is, and that scene tells me that that was the moment where they really connected and bonded. She replays the scene where the moment in their lives when Rose asks her if she wants to stay and fight for Earth, and she says yes. And there's been this theory that Pearl is part of a sub-race of gems, kind of maybe slave-like or subservient type. Maybe not, well, I mean, probably most likely a second-class kind of race. And you get the feeling that Rose was probably the first one to treat her like an equal. And that meant a lot to her. And, man, the fact that you think about the fact that she's done everything for her for like 5,000, 6,000 years, and still after her death, and she's still here. God, what a good episode. Next is, let's see, where are we here? 1, 2, 10, 9, 8, 7. Okay, 6, Space Race. And yes, another Pearl episode. I'm kind of a Pearl fan. I'm sorry. This one actually is an emotional episode that actually has nothing to do with Pearl and Rose. This takes place... I tend to think that the Ocean Gem episode is such a big episode. It has 2 epilogues. The House Guest episode with Greg, and this one I feel is kind of an epilogue to it, where Steven realizes that Pearl is kind of a little sad that she can't really ever leave Earth after watching Lapis escape and leave Earth. It must have stirred up some emotions for her. So he decides to try to cheer up and build a spaceship with Greg. I love that whole dialogue, like, hey, how hurt could we get? And Steven actually has a pretty inspirational line where they talk about how people have been able to do it before, and we're people. It's like, yeah, that's actually really motivational. I could see trying to make a spaceship after that. But of course she gets way into the idea, and is such a genius, she's actually able to take Greg's family's warehouse of old airplane parts and actually build it into a spaceship. But of course Greg is smart enough to know that that's not going to work and tries to keep them, but Pearl takes Steven anyway, and the spaceship is just about to explode, not make the out of the Earth's atmosphere, and Pearl is still laser beam focused on getting out. That's when Steven shows a lot of growth and maturity, and actually becomes the parent for her, and reminds her of what's important. I love the way that the camera like shoots down. She looks up and she sees space, the thing she really wants, and then she, without the camera edit, breaks down and like focuses down on Steven, what's really important to her. Oh, God, that's a great episode. That's just so sad. All right, now I'm going to the next few episodes are going to include 2-parters, and I'm counting 2-parters as one episode because I'm cheating and it's my list and I can do whatever I want. All right, number 5 is The Return in Jailbreak, the fantastic breakthrough episode, which wraps up season 1. This is the episode, specifically Jailbreak, that I think really exploded the fandom and really broke it into the mainstream. And it really is. You can really see the difference, because it was kind of a cult show with a very devoted fan base, and then it really did break open. I can definitely see it. I mean, more people know what the hell I'm talking about when I mention Steven Universe. There are people, I constantly go, what's this Steven Universe thing I keep hearing about? I remember the night it premiered, it was actually even trending on Twitter. So yeah, this was a huge one, and with good cause. First off, it's a great season wrapper that closes in on a lot of storylines and opens up like a shitload more, frankly. And then of course we got the Garnet reveal, and I have to admit, I resisted the Garnet fusion theory for a good long while, almost all the way up until the episode, because I had this feeling that Garnet as a fusion kind of made her as a character invalid, and I was a little worried about that, because I think about the combiner characters in Transformers, and like no one really thinks of Devastator as like his own person. He's like the thing the Constructicons get together to beat up other people. No one ever thinks of him as a character. Like, who cares about Devastator's feelings? So I did kind of think of it in that way. And she's not. She is her own person. She is the way they write it, and the way they've been writing it ever since then, is so brilliant and so interesting and thought-provoking, and they don't take any easy shortcuts with it. They don't like wash over anything. And I love just the concept. Like, what if these two characters did love each other so much and they were together? And what kind of being would they create? You know, in a way, she's almost like their daughter, in a strange way. Because aren't we all real just fusions of our parents? So that song, of course, which is interesting. Garnet is played by pop star Estelle, and she had not had a song up until that point. So, boy, they were saving a good one for us, weren't they? The fight scene between her and Jasper is just awesome. It's very Dragon Ball Z is, where at the same time she's singing about love and what it means to her, and that her love makes her stronger. Oh, God, what a great song. That lyric, the lyrics of that are just brilliant if you just, take a look at them. And also at the same time, there's some other moments, like their confrontation at the end of The Return is just fantastic. When Stephen, tells them that all the gems that, this is his planet too, and you're my family, and pulls out the shield. God, that's really strong. Love these episodes. Next up is Mirror Gem, Ocean Gem, episode 4, and for a lot of people, this is where the show really starts, and definitely just changes the series, frankly. At the same time, you could see them, especially when you go back and watch the first 24 episodes, you watch them slowly building to this, and kind of sets the norm, where the show, almost like a good comic book, has a story arc they're building with the characters, and then they get to the events, and then they build off those, and then they go to the next event. This is it done well, and of course, we introduced the character of Lapis, which so many people love. I also love the character, although I still at the same time view the character as kind of extremely sympathetic villain at this point, who I hope will eventually, maybe kind of clear ahead and join the rest. But that's probably not going to happen for a long time in the show. Let's see. There's so much mystery to the characters. There's a lot we don't know about the character. Like, how did she end up in that mirror? And what was her... She knows who the crystal gems are, where characters like Peridot didn't. So what was her involvement in the gem war? What side was she on? Was she a combatant, or was she caught in the middle of it? All the stuff we don't know. And also, even at the point of the most recent episodes, the crystal gems still kind of view her as an enemy, where Steven views her as a friend. So, what a wonderful episode. You get to see all the characters kind of come together. With the town, the mayor is hilarious. Connie is great. And, God, that battle scene is still one of my favorite fight scenes in the episode, the Ocean Gem fight. It's just, everybody has their bit parts they play in that, and it's just a wonderful episode. All right, now we're up to number 3, and number 3, actually the top 3, as always with me when I kind of combine lists, is where do they go? Because any one of these could have been. This episode, number 3, was my favorite episode for a good long while. So many birthdays, and the number 2 episode are very important episodes to me as a fan, because I was a casual viewer, thanks to my wife, Lindsay, and I thought the show was neat, and I thought the show was fun. I really liked the whole concept of, the crystal gems, and I liked the fact that it was female-driven. And I had first worried, when I first started watching the show, that it was going to be too much like Adventure Time, and my thought was, Cartoon Network should take this opportunity and make really original shows, not just try to do Adventure Time over again. And the more I watched, the more I realized, no, they're not doing Adventure Time over again. They actually are doing what I was hoping they'd do. And the show got more original. And this episode was the one where Steven ages, and we've all seen age transformation episodes in cartoons. I think after 40 years of watching cartoons, I can safely say every show has done that. But this was the only show that I'd ever seen that actually took it to its logical conclusion, where if somebody grows old, maybe they'll grow old and die. And what happens then? And the crystal gems are facing an issue where they can't really hit anything or build anything or do or do something. They feel powerless in watching their adoptive son die right in front of them, and they're trying to recreate the birthday gimmicks that he was doing for them that they just neglected as, you know, just kid stuff and, you know, human stuff that, you know, isn't important to them. And then it becomes very important to them, where they're just trying to do it. And of course, the moment where Pearl gets the cake in the clown outfit and can barely do it because she's so devastated and crying, but it's also funny. And that was the moment. That was literally the moment where I became a true solid fan of this show. It's like, I have never seen, when she has that pie and she's crying at the same time in this ridiculous outfit. I thought, I've never seen this before. This is fantastic. It's sad and funny at the same time. I love this episode, and for a good long while, I mean, this was my favorite episode. Now, number 2 is actually, I usually put this and So Many Birthdays together because this is sort of a 1-2 punch for me. Steven the Sword Fighter, where Pearl tries to train Steven how to fight, and because Steven is bored and wants to see her do the cool stuff he sees in animes, he kind of demands that she does that, and she gets distracted and gets skewered and poofed, you know, which is the gem getting killed, so she could get sucked back into her gem and rebuild herself. But of course, Steven doesn't know that, so he basically sees his adoptive mom get skewered and exploded right in front of him. It's kind of devastating, and it was also his fault. God, that was such a strong moment. That episode really hit me emotionally, and the fact that it dealt with the idea of losing someone close to you like that, and at the same time, him dealing with the Hollow Pearl was very funny. The fact that she had kind of a limited vocabulary in that video game fighting speak is just funny. Of course, they knew how to keep the tone up, and they knew when to keep Garnet and Amethyst in the story and out of the story, so he could deal with this. What's so interesting is that he misses her terribly. He misses Pearl terribly as she's regenerating inside of her pearl, and she's gone. And you get to see how much she means to him in this episode. And he loved her anyway, but this one really kind of like reinforces that. And he starts hanging out with Hollow Pearl in order to kind of fill the void, and it really doesn't fill the void very properly. So he goes back to taking care of the pearl. But Hollow Pearl is oddly enough kind of haunting him, because he's feeling guilty, and even goes so far as throwing a sheet over her. It's like, oh, okay, all right, I get it. She's a ghost. God, what a great episode. Still my second favorite episode after like 60, 70 episodes. It's brilliant. And of course, now my favorite episode of Steven Universe thus far is number 1, Alone Together. Alone Together is just a perfect 11 minutes of animation. Just forget about just being part of the show. It's one of the best episodes of any show I've ever seen, and yeah, just as good as Batman Almost Got Him. I mean, I put him in that category. It's essentially the gems try to teach Steven how to fuse because things are becoming more serious and he probably should learn more of these techniques. He's kind of not getting it because he's not a very good dancer, and he's not as coordinated as the other gems. And he kind of hangs out with Connie, and they start talking about how she's afraid to dance in front of people, so they dance, and they fuse together because they get in sync with each other and create this new identity, Stefani. And the gems' reactions are just hilarious. Garnet, of course, we don't know at this point, is a fusion, so her reaction is just priceless and beautiful. And she tells Stefani that you're not one person, you're not two people, you're an experience. Go out and enjoy life. And then Stefani starts going out and running on the beach, and it's just one of the music swells up, and it's just literally one of the most beautiful moments I've seen in a TV series. What this episode does in just 11 minutes is just magnificent. How they're able to get story, plot done, characters. It's funny, it's sad, and there's so much wonderful metaphor on gender identity and love and first sexual experience, and it does this all so simply and just like it was easy. It was like the easiest thing in the world to make an episode like this. And you just go back and watch it over and over again. Even like the metaphor with the tiny short metaphor with the donuts of all things. I didn't even catch that until maybe the second or third viewing. My wife pointed out, it's like, hey, look at the donuts. Like, oh god, I'm so stupid. I'm sure that got by censor. I mean, that's a pretty blatant metaphor. And it's sweet and it's cute. I love it. I mean, the end when they unfuse and they just look at each other and they start laughing and dancing. It's just one of the sweetest moments. It's like really like, hey, we experienced this great thing together. Isn't it wonderful? It's beautiful, and I think it encapsulates what's so good about the show and what the show does well. So that's my top 10 favorites of Steven Universe thus far. Who knows if I do this list next year, what's going to be on it, how the list will change, because the show is just so good. I also want to point out that my wife makes cute things. You may have noticed Tom Servo here, but also here's her tiny floating whale. Ooh. And here's her little coochie copy from Bob's Burgers. You want to go number 2, Mr. Bob? She has her own business, actually. Check out the Patreon link below if you want to take a look at the rewards, if you want to support her. And also, I have one too. You may want to check it out. They're both below. I think that's it for now, so push the button, Lindsay.